This is a response to Ankeglon 13's questions directed at ostensibly CDK007, but I feel that since the questions were quite simple, I could provide answers to them myself. The first point you bring up is not really a refutation of anything. You state that we were never there, however, or the fact that we weren't there doesn't make any evidence we find that was from that time. I'm invalid. Case in point, court. If we had to be there to confirm evidence and confirm something as fact, then you could throw out any court case by simply asking the prosecution if they had any witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime. If no witness was present, then you can simply say, well, all of their other evidence doesn't matter, no one was there, we can't prove anything, case dismissed. Unfortunately for you, court does not work that way. We can and do take evidence from the crime scene and use it to determine who was most likely to commit the crime based on the evidence we have of the person and what we've gathered at the crime scene. This were you there claim has been filed in the Talk Origins archive as claim CA221, and the response is right here. It's taken directly from Ken Ham, who is a well-known creationist and brings up canards like this all the time. The response, of course, there is here. Events in the past leave traces that lasted in the present. We can do look at that evidence today. It's like looking at a crime scene, taking the evidence from the crime scene, seeing what it says, and then trying to use that evidence based on the victim or wherever the crime was committed, and trying to figure out who committed the crime. Through this evidence, we can and do actually determine quite well who did and didn't commit a crime. And of course, if this response were a valid challenge to evolution, it would also equally invalidate creation with Christianity, because if we weren't there, you can't prove anything either. So it's not really an argument in favor of anything, but we don't know. Because, again, those are based on events that nobody alive today has witnessed. Even then, they're actually based on events that barely anyone witnessed. And a more useful, more general question is, how do you know? If a person making a claim cannot answer that question, you may consider the claim baseless, tentatively, as someone else may be able to answer. And if the answer is subjective, as in it rests on their religious convictions, you know that the claim does not necessarily apply to anyone but that person. If you cannot understand the answer, you probably have some studying to do. If you get a good answer, you know to take the claim seriously. That's really it for the refutation of that one, so I'm going to jump right ahead to the next one. You asked for abiogenesis, and the explanation would take me a very long time, a good bit of research into things I do not understand. Instead, I will direct you to another video by CDK007 displayed here. It is called The Origin of Life, Abiogenesis. It can be found readily on his channel, and I encourage you to give it a watch, because it actually makes abiogenesis make sense. I was not too firm on abiogenesis until I saw this, and it is really quite plausible given the conditions of the early Earth and the formation of self-replicating molecules. Really, give it a try. The third one, and then in this you also mentioned Louis Pasteur and his law of biogenesis. Unfortunately, what he did not disprove was was not abiogenesis. What he disproved was spontaneous generation, which is the idea that life forms such as mice, maggots, and bacteria can appear fully formed. That is a form of creationism, because creationism states that God popped and poofed mice, maggots, bacteria, humans into existence, whereas abiogenesis says simple cells came together or as a result of biochemical processes, as in these cells later through evolution, and then obviously evolution takes over and these cells slowly become more complex. You can't just point at a modern cell and say, well, that can't pop out of nowhere, because obviously the first cells that formed are not going to be as complex as modern cells. They can't be, because if they were as complex as modern cells, they wouldn't be able to function. And that's really about it. I hope I answered your questions well, and I hope that you listen to this video and do the reading and watching I suggested, and maybe do some other research if this does interest you. Thank you very much.